Everybody knows that on your 12th birthday, you have to decide which ethnicity you are. If you're half black and half Indian on your 12th birthday, it's required by law. It's in the Constitution. You have to pick one, and you can't switch it. Donald Trump, he is so cool, right? Nothing could possibly go wrong with him, right? Trump goes on a truly deranged rant about black jobs, and the crowd boos him. So we're going to watch the whole thing here in just a sec. But it is a very weird thing. Yeah, define DEI. Yeah, we're going to watch the whole thing. The left and the liberal media is really pushing hard on this being a giant failure on his part. It is a failure. He didn't do a good job. But I don't think this is going to kill him. This is not going to ruin him. Joe Biden got 90% of the black vote in 2020. I suspect that Kamala is going to get at least that much and win the state of Georgia. But the right is going to spin this the way they always spin it, and the left is going to spin it as his horrible defeat. We got him. We got him, boys. No, we didn't got him. It's the same thing as he always does. He still can't tell us what black jobs are. He said, no, he defined it. He said all jobs. So let's watch it. Let's hear what he has to say. It's all bad, and it's pretty awful. But I would like to watch it in full, so we're going to watch it. I'll pause it at certain times.
Hello human, it is me Kanuch. I need you to press the subscribe button. I have to feed my many AI babies.
Go.
Good afternoon, NABJ, and welcome to a conversation with former President Donald Trump. This
How's that
discussion
audio?
continues a decades-long tradition during election years of inviting journalists to discuss the policies and their impact with the candidates who are running for president, and the impact of those policies, especially in black communities. Former Presidents George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton have attended the NABJ conventions either as presidents or as presidential candidates in past years. NABJ is currently in conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris's team to schedule a Q&A either in person or virtually in September. As journalists, we use opportunities like these both to inform our reporting, but also to help voters understand the choices that they face in a consequential and historic election year. NABJ has partnered with PolitiFact to fact-check this conversation in real time. You can access that feed on social media.
Cheers for fact-checking.
Using the hashtag NABJFactCheck. Again, the hashtag is NABJFactCheck. We have a lot to get to, and we do not want to waste any time, so let's bring out the former President of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald Trump.
Do you think he picked that song? It's kind of funky, not sure.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
See, now this sounds great. Everybody's excited. I feel it. I feel it from you. I'm like, ooh, she got him, right? She got him. She laying it all out and laying it all down. She got him right where she wants him. Not really. Because guess what? He doesn't play the game the way everybody else does. You're about to see how he turns this around. He judo flips this.
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner.
Horrible manner.
You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network.
ABC's fake news because they disagree with you. That's.
And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina.
Opportunity zones? I don't know anything about them. Maybe I'll look them up later.
Which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them.
Not even close to being true. I mean, he's just making stuff up.
and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further.
She's rude, nasty, you know? She didn't pat his balls and call him a good as boy. Yeah, I know. He didn't. She was not softballing him, so he's unhappy and he's rude. So he turns it into a, I'm going to be antagonistic towards you, you know. And his voters love that.
I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense, and then you said you can't do it with Zoom. Well, you know, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working, or something was
President,
wrong.
I would love
think
you
it's
can
a
answer
very
the question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe
answered the
that
question.
He answered the question, apparently. Did you hear him? I have answered the question.
Trust you with another
I
4
have been
years.
the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President
That's
Johnson,
my
who signed the
answer.
Voting Rights
And
Act?
for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace. I really do.
Pivot. You know, that's a pivot, but his fans are going to like that pivot. They're going to be enjoying that. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, he's right. They were rude to him. It's their fault.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who was the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
DEI simply is the new N-word. If you want to call someone the N-word, you're not allowed to do that anymore. So you just say they're DEI. This is a DEI interviewer. That's the only reason she got her job at ABC, the fake news company, is because of her gender and the color of her skin. That is how they operate. That's how they think. It doesn't make any sense. It's idiotic. But DEI is the new slur. It's the new N-word, and they're going to keep using it. They love it. It's great. It used to be urban.
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
Diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
That's what the words are. Do you want each of those words?
Is that what your definition?
That is
Give me a
literally the
definition
words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define the.
Ask the interviewer a question. If you don't like what they asked you, turn it around on them. Ask them something.
Define it for me, if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So, I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly, very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as.
When she happened to turn black. Everybody knows that on your 12th birthday, you have to decide which ethnicity you are. If you're half black and half Indian, on your 12th birthday, it's required by law. It's in the Constitution. You have to pick one, and you can't switch it. She on her 12th birthday, she chose Indian, and that's what she talked about for the next 30 years. But now, all of a sudden, she's black. She turned black. I don't think he comprehends anything that he's talking about, but that's fine. Let's keep going. She just turned black. Okay.
Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman.
I
She went to a
respect either
historically black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't. Because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became
made a turn.
black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
Became
you
a black
believe that?
person. She just became one. Is there a form to fill out? Somebody get on Black Twitter. Let me know if there's a form to fill out. Is it a lawful change? You have to go down to the Justice of the Peace and change things on your registration. You have to get a new driver's license. I don't know what the process is. Maybe he's aware of it, but she became black. I mean, that's nice. Good for her.
I think somebody should look into that too when you continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct
Hostile,
question, sir.
nasty
Do you
tone.
believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some
I
Republicans
really
have
don't know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length, and we had a
And see how he throws to the Fox News anchor? He recognizes that lady from Fox News will be nice to him. So he pivots the entire conversation. I don't like talking to you. Can we now talk to the lady who's nice to me? And then she's going to be nice to him.
great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings in that
Well, you
interview.
told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion. Look, I want to talk about why you're here today. I mean, it is not lost on us how divided we are as a country. And as you were coming to...
Can you think of why we might be divided? Can you think of a reason why?
Today, we really got to see that we were divided along the lines of race, along the lines of gender. And there is this question of, in this moment where we are, why come here? What is your message today?
My message is to stop people from invading our country that are taking, frankly, a lot of problems with it. But one of the big problems, and a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are black. I will tell you that coming.
A lot of the people in this, a lot of the journalists in this room are black. It's the black journalists. That's what the BJ stands for up there. It's their conference, man.
From the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
What's a black
is
job?
Anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
Anybody
And
that has a job is a black
They're taking
job.
the employment away from black people. They're coming in and
Anybody that has a job is a black job. So I have a black job. You have a black job. Did you know that you have a black job? Did he have a job? He's had jobs in the past, right? Like, were those black jobs? I'm so confused. Anybody that has a job.
And
Mr. President,
they're
can I-
taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions of people, probably 15, 16, 17 million people.
No, it's not. You're making that up.
I have a feeling it's much more than that.
Much more than
and
that.
Everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that, and Kamala is allowing it to happen. She's the border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border czar like this. She's never even essentially been. She said she was there once, but not the right part of the border. So she was a border czar. She's done a horrible job. These people are coming into our country, and they're taking black jobs and Hispanic jobs, and frankly, they're taking union jobs. Unions are being very badly affected
They're taking Hispanic jobs. Aren't they Hispanic people? I don't know. Okay.
by all of the millions of people that are pouring into our country. And one thing, as we discussed, many of these people are coming in from mental institutions, from prisons, from jail.
Absolutely not true. He's just making that up. This is just his rally speech, you know? They ask him a question, what's a black job? And he just goes into his rally speech about the invasion. They're sending their mental institution patients.
They're gang members in other countries. Other countries are setting loose their prisoners. They're opening up their prisons and their mental institutions, and they're taking their bad people, drug dealers, gang members, and they're bringing them into the United States. And
Absolutely no evidence of this. He just makes it up.
by the way, their crime rate is going down, and our crime rate is going to be a disaster.
Mr. President?
Our crime rate is already down, and I'm glad. It's almost like he knows that it's down, and he didn't want to say that it's up right now because it's not, and he knows it's not. And then one of these reporters would argue with him and be like, "Crime's down right now, dummy."
I want to get into how you address some of the issues with black communities. And I say that plural because we live in communities of color that are different. We're not all the same. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same.
Sure.
It's not monolithic. So as you come here today, I want to talk about something that bursts. And this is the weight of the inflation on this country right now. The nonprofit Money Management International recently released data from its mid-year analysis that we have found a 52% rise in people who are seeking counseling for being in credit debt. They're paying for food that is sky high on their credit cards, and now they can't pay that off. The credit counseling nonprofit MMI, as I said, is saying now that they've seen surges that they haven't seen since we were in a pandemic of people in financial trouble. Much of that falls on the shoulders of single moms, single black moms, when you look statistically.
Yeah.
How do you turn it around? What's your plan for the black community when it comes to money?
So, first of all, it's very hard to hear you for whatever reason because of the fact that they have bad equipment, because I guess, this woman was unable to get the right equipment. But
Another dig, just more spite, more angry unhappiness. Part of his tactic is to wrangle the demographic he's speaking to into fear. Yeah, you're right. He does spread fear all the time. It doesn't matter what the demographic he's speaking to is. The message is the same. He inserts black, Christian, or blue collar. Yeah. He's trying to say things in a way that are harder to fact check. Yeah, exactly. Shinseto, he doesn't say crime is up. He said it's gonna be up. He's massaging his language because he's actually kind of good at being a politician. He's the most political thing to ever exist, yet everybody, his fans think that he isn't a politician. He's born to be a politician. He really fucking is. So let's keep going.
it's very hard for me to hear you, but I can hear every other
Yeah, he's digging on him. I can't hear you. Everybody else I can hear, not you. This woman must have done the speakers and the audio wrong.
word. It's very difficult, actually. But
And as a streamer, I recognize that it is very difficult to do audio correctly.
so I don't know if they can fix it or do something with it, but I'll do the best I can with it. The inflation is absolutely destroying our middle class, our working class, virtually every class. Inflation is a disaster in our country. Inflation is a country buster. It breaks every country. And we had in my opinion, the worst inflation we've had. They say it's 58 years, but I think it's much more than that. It's been devastating.
You can count the numbers, man. If they said it was 58 years, it's not more than that. This is a math problem, Donnie. Also, inflation comes from the companies raising their prices, not the government. The government can do things to control those companies and bring inflation down through laws and stuff like that, but the government doesn't create inflation. It just doesn't. Such a Karen with remarks like that, completely unnecessary to say unless you're trying to be spiteful. Yeah, exactly. He is trying to be spiteful. That is his job here. That is what he wants to do.
And if you just take a look at a lot of things they don't include, like interest rates. Interest rates went from 2.4% to 10%, and you can't get the money. People can't buy houses. They no longer have the American dream. Young people, young black people, they don't have the American dream anymore. They can't buy a house. They can't borrow the money because of the cost of the money. They can't buy it because of the cost of housing, because
these all seem like capitalism failures to me, boss.
of the cost to build it, because of inflation. Inflation is a disaster, and it's destroying our country, and it's destroying the black community probably as much or
So what do
more
you do?
than any
What's your plan?
And it's all from capitalism.
You know what we have to do? We have to bring down the cost of energy, and that's going to bring down the cost of inflation. This was all started with a bad energy policy by Joe Biden. By the way,
More drilling would bring the price of oil down, but it also then releases more carbon into the air, speeds up the climate change. He doesn't believe in climate change, so it doesn't matter. But at the same time, that doesn't make inflation go away. That doesn't bring the prices down, especially if those companies want those prices to be that high so that they can make money. The housing thing that he was talking about a minute ago is not because we can't get the stuff together to build houses. Is that the people who own the houses want them to be valuable, more valuable, and they're more valuable if there are fewer of them. Joe Biden.
way, just if I might, I was running against a man named Biden. You probably saw that. And he was losing very badly in the polls, and then he had a rather bad debate. I would say it was a bad debate. I would say it was one of the worst debates in history. And his poll numbers crashed. And instead of saying, let's keep going, and maybe something happens the other way, they said, we're going to replace him. Let's just replace him. That's like you're in a fight. A prize fighter's in a fight. He's not doing well. You say, let's bring in another fighter. So our whole campaign was steered toward him, and now we have to steer toward him. But ultimately, it's the same, because they have bad policy. They have policies of open borders, unbelievable open borders, horrible energy policies. They want to get rid of, as you say, gasoline in cars. They want to get rid of oil. They want to...
Because it's causing global warming and gonna kill us all. Man, there's no... Why do they want that? Donnie, why do they want that?
Get rid of efficient heating.
Mr. President.
Environmentally, what they're doing is killing our country. They're absolutely destroying our country. But the inflation is the thing that's hurting the black worker, the black population, and every other population within our country. Inflation is the worst it's been, I think, in over 100 years. And they'll fact check it. They'll say it's only 58. Whatever it may be, they don't add all the numbers. They don't add the really bad numbers, and you can check that too. But inflation, Harris, is absolutely destroying this country. And
where do those numbers come from? They come from the economy. They come from the market. They come from the companies. Those companies, like Shinsinto said, are gouging prices during COVID and then called it a supply chain disruption and then never brought them back down. They need next year's numbers to be better than this year's numbers, or else their CEO gets fucking canned and their stock price goes down. So they just charge you more for the same items. That's how capitalism works.
people in our country. Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
President, can I ask you another question
Yes,
that is also impacting black Americans?
And that's very clear now. Good.
I'm sorry?
It's very clear. I hear you.
Okay. So Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
So I don't think I covered this because it seemed like an individual thing. There's never an audio problem. He just said his piece, so he feels it. Or maybe, I don't know. He says it again later, but maybe he just is being a spiteful jerk and saying that the Republicans on the stage can't talk to each other and can't hear each other. Leftist audio. It is true that audio equipment has a left-wing bias. This microphone right here clearly has a left-wing bias. Everybody knows this. All wires have left-wing bias. All lights have a left-wing bias. Everyone knows this. All cameras have a left-wing bias. There's nothing you can do about it. They're part of the tech industry. You can't do shit about it. Interest rates were designed to combat inflation, slow it down. They can't magically stop it. And you don't want to magically stop it. It's supposed to go up a little bit. Inflation is supposed to happen at a controlled rate over time. That's how the system is designed. That's how capitalism is supposed to operate. So when he says things like we're going to cancel inflation and we're going to have zero inflation, you're actually no. That's a bad thing, my man. Inflation is the country killer, the country buster. Well, inflation has always existed, man. It's like ice. It just exists sometimes, and sometimes you have to manage it. That's all. It's just a part of the natural state of economies. Leftist audio. Let's go.
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me.
It didn't look good. Okay, great. Donnie, listen. When it doesn't look good, when the cop shoots a black lady who says she's going to do a magic spell, you should not give him immunity. That's what we're saying to you. Donald, listen. I don't know. I didn't cover it on the stream, but you've probably seen it. It was all over the news. A crazy lady said she was going to do a magic spell at a police officer, and that police officer shot her with a real gun. Magic's not real. She said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. That's a magic spell, guys. That's not a real thing. You can say that to someone and it does not harm them. And he said to that, you fucking better not, I'll shoot you in the fucking face. Then he did. She did a magic spell because she's a crazy person. He responded with actual real bullets. Bullets actually kill people. Words don't. Especially magic words about Jesus. Those don't kill anybody. They never have. They never will. And that's what we're talking about. And under Trump's plan, he would have immunity from prosecution. Everyone has abandoned him. The cop union the police union is like, oh no, we are not protecting this guy. They pieced out. They ditched him. They're like, no. This guy did a bad thing. And we're not doing that. We're not protecting him. The DA is, I want to say, accused him of murder. And he might go on trial for murder because nobody's taking care of him. Nobody's defending him. He would have immunity, Donnie, under your plans. That's not good. This is a flaw in the system that you are promising us. You are promising us more cop immunity, and we are pointing at the flaws within your plan. Please don't do that. Trump's one of those people that we have to take the spirit of what he says, not what the actual says. Yeah, I know. I saw that video, and it sounded like she was joking when the cop goes nuts and tried to apologize and said it was a joke. Yeah, she said something stupid, and because his imaginary friend Jesus is so important to him, he got severely triggered and thought that maybe this lady could do magic and that it would harm his relationship to his imaginary friend Jesus. And that harm was terrifying to him. And so he pulled out a real gun and shot real bullets into her. Then she died. For real. If you say magical words at this guy, he'll shoot you. That's fucked up. All right, let's keep going. He's going to talk about it. He's going to flip-flop back and forth. He's going to say it's bad.
Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah.
She didn't throw any water.
I mean, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But again, why would...
Are they going to be charging the officer? I guess they're charging the officer.
So
Yes.
why should he receive immunity?
Right.
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people...
Donnie, no. If you say he's immune, he's immune. I don't think it's about Jesus. I think it's a mentally grounded cops that the warrior in a foreign land and the survival of every day. No, she said a magic thing about Jesus, and that made him freak the fuck out. Don, we don't want that guy to be immune from prosecution.
to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So
How does giving them the ability to kill people more easily give them more respect? It doesn't. Or dignity. It does none of those things. You just don't like it when they get held responsible for their actions.
can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those
Well, right now,
distinctions?
for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made an innocent mistake, I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions?
We already have this under control. We already have this figured out, Donald. We really do. Qualified immunity is almost always on the cop side. They don't need more of it. They don't need more of it. They already have it. I don't know why you would want more.
Be? What would determine
you
an
go
innocent
after
mistake?
somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous, and you know they have the policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing because
Policewoman, okay, he's got the fucking woke mind virus, I tell you what.
sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision, and sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
So I want to follow up really quick.
We have processes in place to determine that already. This isn't something new that he just invented. We already know what to do with that. If it's an accident, if it's a mistake, if it's an innocent bullet to the head, as Shinsinto was saying, we have processes in place to take care of that. Don't dick them up, Donald. Don't dick them up. Don't dick it up, Donald. I think that's a good catchphrase. Don't dick it up, Donald.
Quickly, I find it interesting because you do talk about reining in prosecutors, especially when it comes to prosecutors that are prosecuting you. Why doesn't that skepticism apply to law enforcement?
Well, I've been prosecuted because I'm a political opponent of two
That's not true. You were prosecuted because you broke the law, Donald.
people that have weaponized our justice system.
Absolutely not true. You broke the law.
I've been prosecuted. I just won the big case in Florida. Everyone said that was the biggest case.
He did not win the case in Florida. He didn't win the case in Florida. The Supreme Court changed the rules mid-game to say, no, that's not a foul. They're the referees, and they changed the rules mid-game to benefit him. He didn't win anything. He didn't win the case. He didn't win. The referees took his side because they're on the same team. This fucking guy. Short, pithy, wrong. I won the case in Florida. Everybody said it was impossible, but I won.
That was the most difficult case, and I just won it. Now, Biden has a similar case, except much worse. I was protected under the Presidential Records Act. Biden wasn't, because he wasn't president at the time, and he had 50 years' worth of documents. And
Biden did not have 50 years' worth of documents. That doesn't even make sense. Maybe he had documents pertaining to 50 years of information or something like that, but he didn't have 50. You know how many documents is 50 years worth of government documents? That's like a library.
They ruled that he was incompetent, and therefore he shouldn't stand trial.
That is not at all what happened. Christ almighty, man. They didn't rule he was incompetent and then couldn't stand trial. They interviewed him. They asked him how it went. He helped them get the things back. They all got returned. The end. Then they asked him if he did anything wrong or malicious. During the interview with him, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't commit any crimes. So they didn't prosecute him. That's it. He gave them back when they asked. Exactly. They were like, hey, you have these? He's like, yeah, I sure do. Here you go. How can I help you get them back? He didn't hide them and then lie about it like Donald Trump did. Jesus Christ.
And I said, isn't that something? He's incompetent and he can't stand trial, and yet he can be president.
None of that is true or correct. You're just making things up.
That he was incompetent. They said he had no memory, and he was a nice old guy, but he had no memory, and therefore we're not going to prosecute him. I won the case.
Not correct.
You got very
win.
little publicity. I didn't notice ABC doing any publicity on it, George.
We covered you extensively, sir. I love
Another dig at ABC. They cover it just as often as everybody else does.
move over on to
I didn't
different
notice
topics
you do
now.
any publicity on it at all. I won the case, the biggest case. This is an attack on a political opponent.
I won the case. I won the case. You guys didn't talk about me winning the case because you didn't win it.
Another one where
Sir,
I
if
have
you
a
don't mind,
hostile
I'd love
judge.
we have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different
No,
topics.
excuse
if
me.
we
You're the
can.
one that held me up for 35 minutes, just so you understand.
If we can move on now to the state of the race, sir, I want to get back to the campaign. Senator
And she comes back not being hostile and petty and shitty, but that's him, just a petulant child, constantly.
J.D. Vance is your running mate. He's had a lot of controversy lately, and I want to read you a few things that he has said in the past.
He's weird.
He said the Democrats running the country are a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. He's not talking here about how great it is to be a parent. He's attacking what he says are the choices people are making to not have children. Did you know that he had these views?
They don't have, see, that's the thing. That's why J.D. Vance makes that thing. You're doing freedom wrong. If you are a childless cat lady, in J.D. Vance's brain, you have made a severe mistake. You're not doing freedom properly. You're not being free. No. If you're a childless cat lady, according to J.D. Vance, you didn't do the freedom steps properly, okay? And you need to have your power stripped from you for not doing freedom correctly. Freedom, according to the Republicans and J.D. Vance, means that you have a spouse of the opposite gender, you have 2.5 kids, and you have a house in the suburbs with a white picket fence. And if you don't have those things, you've done freedom wrong. So why would we give people who are doing freedom wrong power and authority over our society? We shouldn't, right? They're doing freedom incorrectly. So if you don't make the right choices the right way, the way J.D. Vance wants you to make them, he will take your political power away. It's very simple. It's very easy. Which half of the kid do you get? It depends. There are some people that say top half, but I go bottom half. Listen, bottom half, yeah, you got to clean up after them, but they don't talk. So I'm just saying. There's pros and cons on each side. I mean, you got to feed that top half, and it talks. So there's goods and there's bads. You know?
Views about people who do not have children before you picked him to be your running mate, and do you agree with him?
No, I know this. He is very family oriented, and he thinks family is a great thing. That doesn't mean he thinks that if you don't have a family, it's not. I know people with families. I know people with great families. I know people with very troubled families. And I also know people with no families. They didn't meet the right person. Things happen. You go through life, you don't meet the right person.
But he's not just talking about families here. He also says that people that don't have children should get less votes than those that do.
I'm just speaking for myself.
Is that your...
And she's starting to run over him a little bit.
I think I'm speaking for him, too. He strongly believes in family. But I know people with great families. I know people with not great families that don't have a family. And the people without the family are far better. They're superior in many cases, okay? He's not saying they're not. What he's saying is that he thinks the family experience is a very important thing. It's a very good thing. But that doesn't mean that if you grow up and you grow older and you don't meet somebody that would be wonderful to meet and would have been good, that's a bad thing. He's not saying that. My interpretation, you'll have to ask him, actually, but my interpretation is he's strongly family-oriented. But that doesn't mean if you don't have a family, there's something wrong with it.
Just one last
That's exactly what he said. He said there is something wrong with it. He said that you're doing America wrong.
point, and then we'll move on. Just one of the bedrock principles of American life is one person, one vote. Senator J.D. Vance has suggested that someone who has children should have more votes than a person who does not have children. I just want to be clear here. Is that the position of your campaign?
Well, no, but it's not something I've ever heard before. I can tell you this. Right now you have illegal aliens coming into our country, many from prisons and many from mental institutions, and they want to give them votes. I don't think they should have votes. They came into our country illegally.
Doesn't like the question. He'll just pivot to one of his talking points. Doesn't like the question. Say invasion again.
People
And
who
they're
are only
taking the
American
vote away
citizens
from
are
all
allowed
of the
to vote,
people in
sir.
this room that have been here a long time.
She gives him facts. Only American citizens are allowed to vote. He doesn't even hear the facts. They just roll right by him.
That have worked hard, that in many cases, and you'll see this happening, if I'm not elected, you're going to see it happening. If I am, you're not going to have any problem. But you're going to see it happening a long time. You're going to see the people in this room and people outside of this room are going to be losing their jobs to people that have come into this country illegally.
Mr. President.
That was a question about J.D. Vance and families, by the way, just in case you forgot.
Can we stay with just kind of the state of the race right now? Because I felt like that vice president question, candidate question was right in there with that.
She jumps in to give him the softball, but...
So let's talk about J.D. Vance for a little bit. He's had some stumbles out of the gate. I don't know if you're hearing what we hear as reporters, but it's been a tough couple of weeks for him. Why did you choose J.D. Vance?
Why
did you choose him? And I'm having a hard time hearing, too. I know everybody out there can, but it's hard
I'll tell you why.
It's leftist audio.
Chose him because he's a very strong believer in work and the working man and woman.
Work.
And especially the working man and woman who have been treated very unfairly, because you have many of them in this room. But you have many of those people, they were treated very unfairly. They worked very hard and they were treated unfairly. He wrote the book that became a bestseller. The movie became a smash hit.
He's talking about Hillbilly Elegy, which, again, I haven't seen or read. Most of it he made up. I'm willing to bet the problem these hillbillies have, as I was born a hillbilly and raised as one, is a problem with capitalism, not the government. The problem is capitalism doesn't care for these people. They can't get anything from them, so they've abandoned them.
He's a very smart guy without the benefit of having a family that has contacts, like a father that was well-connected. He got into Yale Law School. He graduated in 2 years from Ohio State, summa cum laude. I mean, you take a look at, his career has been an amazing career. He started off at a level with a difficult family situation, very difficult, with the mother and the father and everything else. He ends up going to Yale Law School and was one of the top students, became the head of the Law Journal. I mean, it's an amazing thing. He went
Under a different name. His name was something else back then. He changed his name. It's very strange.
He's a 4-year. He was in the military with great distinction for 4 years. Got out, went into business, became successful in business, very successful in business, actually. Did public
Doing rug pulls and stealing from people with hedge fund type maneuvers.
offerings and other things. And I have to believe in that. I mean, he's somebody that was born in a rough situation. Most of the people know that situation because it was very well documented in his book. And I have a lot of respect for somebody that can get into Yale and become one of the best students in Yale, that meets a young woman at Yale who was also outstanding, and they get married, they have a beautiful family. But he had he's made himself an amazing life. He then goes to Ohio, lives in Ohio, and he had my endorsement. That helped. But he wins the Senate. He becomes a United States
He also had a ton of Peter Thiel's money.
senator. So he's a United States senator. So Harris, like I respect you for your success, I respect people for their success.
The reason I asked the question
Not you.
is because the last time you and I sat and talked was the day that you were shot. We'd been together for much of that day. You left to go to Butler, Pennsylvania, and we didn't know what was next.
Yeah.
And 2 days after that,
I cannot understand your microphone.
I know,
is
it is really hard.
Leftist audio strikes
I can
again.
understand you perfectly.
Push
Well,
this
Leftist
closer.
audio.
I'm happy to hear that.
but
sir.
I can't
Really happy to hear
understand,
that.
Harris.
I have a few more questions.
Because of the distance, and the mics are really in lousy shape, but I cannot understand.
So-
The mics are in
What you're
lousy
saying.
shape.
So what I wanted to
Leftist
say
audio.
was the last time we spoke, you said some words that
The microphones are hearing his nonsense and being like, man, I ain't fucking transmitting that. That's horseshit. I'm a microphone. I transmit sound waves, not bullshit.
were prophetic, because I asked you who you wanted to choose for vice president.
Yep.
And you said normally it really wouldn't matter what they would, you choose somebody that you think has a future, that sort of thing. But you said these words 3.5 hours before an attempted assassination on your life. You told me that bad things happen, Harris, and that's why this decision is important this time. Bad things happen. You said it twice. When you look at J.D. Vance, is he ready on day one?
Does he what?
Ready
Does he
on
what?
day one, if he has to be.
I've always had great respect for him, and for the other candidates too. But I will say this, and I think this is well documented. Historically, the vice president, in terms of the election, does not have any impact. I mean, virtually no impact.
Virtually no impact. He's downplaying a little bit. J.D. Vance has had some bad press over the past couple of days. They were calling him weird. They're saying he does things to couches. It's a whole thing. There's a joke. And so he's downplaying it. He's like, no, listen. I know you're worried about that. I know you're worried about this J.D. Vance fella, but don't worry. Virtually nothing to do with it. You're just voting for me. Only pay attention to me. Don't pay attention to him.
You have 2 or 3 days where there's a lot of commotion as to who, like you're having it on the Democrat side, who it's going to be. And then that dies down, and it's all about the presidential pick. Virtually never has it mattered. Maybe Lyndon Johnson mattered for different reasons than what we're talking about, not for vote reasons, but for political reasons, other political reasons. But historically, the choice of a vice president makes no difference. You're voting for the president, and you can have a vice president who's outstanding in every way, and I think J.D. is. I think that all of them would have been. But you're not voting that way. You're voting for the president.
You're voting for me.
If you like me, I'm going to win. If you don't like me, I'm not going to win.
I'm going to get my J.D. Vance question in.
J.D. Vance?
I'm going to get my J.D. Vance
Sure.
question in. To your point and to Rachel's point, he, has a lot of opinions about childless women like myself or divorced people like yourself. Do you think, my
But
point
at
is
least
here.
it was said in a friendly manner.
My point is.
In a friendly manner. What? No, I think she was taking a dig at
Do you
you.
think the Republican Party is getting a little bit too judgy about people's lives when you think about abortion or when you think about what J.D. Vance is saying?
I don't think, look, I think that the Democrat Party is really the one that has the problem. I think they're radical on abortion because they're allowing abortion in the 9th month.
Not even close to being correct.
allowing the
But I
death,
think it's
they're
about
allowing
freedom,
the death
right?
of a baby after the baby is born. Based
Absolutely
on,
not true.
Governor of
illegal in every
Virginia.
state.
It's illegal in every
The governor
state.
of Virginia, they're allowing the death
state
of the
in the country
baby
is illegal.
after it's born. They're
It's a
allowing
crime.
abortions in the 8th and 9th month.
Well, Democrats
Nonsense. He just gets to make up whatever he wants.
have denied.
I think they're right, and I think the Republican Party is actually much less. I think I've made them much less radical, perhaps, but the Republican Party, what we're
He's made the Republicans less radical.
doing is bringing it back to the states where
I just
everybody
can't-
wanted it. Democrats, Republicans,
No.
liberals, conservatives, everybody
Nobody wanted it at the
abortion
states.
brought back. They didn't
No,
want
they
Roe v.
didn't.
Wade in the federal government. They wanted
It made sense. Everybody liked it.
it. Everybody
But the
wanted
majority
it
of
back.
Americans oppose
Excuse
Roe
me.
v. Wade being
They
overturned.
don't
Multiple
know
Exactly.
about this right now.
That's a fact, and he doesn't argue with facts. He just makes shit up.
They're voting. It brought it back to the states. Now, I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Ronald Reagan believed with rape, incest, life of the mother. I do. I think most people do. I think most Republicans do also. But if you take a look, right now they're doing, it's an amazing thing. Out of the federal government, it's in states, and people are voting. And I will say,
That's 50 different laws in 50 different places. It's a terrible idea. I've said it 1,000 times. That doesn't make it better.
Ohio is, let's call it a more liberal version, has been approved. Kansas, the same thing, a little bit surprising to a lot of people. But the people are now voting. And it's taking this issue that's been going on for 52 years and has torn our country apart, and it's giving it to the people to vote on.
It wasn't tearing our country apart. The hard right Christian nationalists said that it was. They're lying. It wasn't tearing anybody apart. They just didn't like it. They thought it was icky. They thought it was mean. So they tore the country apart. They could have stopped doing that. They could have said, hey, you get to do what you want. Over. Problem solved. Nobody would have had an issue with it, and we wouldn't have 50 states doing 50 different things right now. It's insane.
And they're voting. And many states have already voted. Others are in the process of voting. And it's bringing it back to the people and a vote of the people. And it's not at all radical. And again, you have to follow your heart. I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Most people believe in the 3 exceptions. Most Republicans believe in the exceptions. But they don't want to see an abortion in the 9th month or the 8th month. Almost everybody.
99% of them are done within the first 6 weeks. Like I read that number somewhere. I'm now quoting numbers, and 77% of statistics are made up on the spot. But that's the one I remember.
Agrees to that. And they certainly don't want to see, in the case of the governor of Virginia, the former governor, I might add, who said, we set the baby aside and then we decide what to do, meaning
He severely, completely misunderstands what the hell the governor of Virginia was talking about. The governor of Virginia was talking about stillbirths. It's a thing that happens, and we know that it happens. It even has a name called stillbirth. You've probably heard that name before. So that's what the governor was talking about. Donald Trump doesn't speak English properly and doesn't comprehend the English language the same way the rest of us do. So he misunderstood what the governor of Virginia was talking about, and this was like 8 years ago anyway, and is a really old nonsense talking point that he keeps using over and over and over again improperly. But it doesn't matter because it makes him feel good and it makes his fans happy, makes them excited.
what do? We execute the baby.
Can I-
That's a radical, horrible position. And some people want that. I don't want it. Most people don't.
Thank you. Can I just pivot really quickly to another question about, you brought up health, Harris. You're an active man. We see you golfing all the time. But if you win, you'll still be president at 82,
No.
which is older than Biden is right now.
But not
Would you-
mentally. Look, mentally.
I mean, Donald Trump is the oldest right now person to run for president. Joe Biden was, but then he decided not to run for president. So
Here's a question.
He shot. But most people,
Would you
most people, I know many people in
Yeah.
their 80s and their 90s that are in great shape. Some of our greatest leaders. You look at throughout the world history, the greatest leaders, some of the greatest leaders in the world were in their 80s.
But here's a question. Would you consider stepping down if you felt that your health was declining? Or would you?
Oh, absolutely.
And who would
I
make,
think I'd know.
How would you make that decision?
I think I'd know. Look, if I came onto a stage like this and I got treated so rudely as this woman treated
Oh my
me,
goodness.
again, to Diggs, petty, childish, cry me a river, you poor, mistreated victim. He's so sad that somebody would say his words to him. How dare you use my words against me? How dare you, reporter, say the things that I said back to me? I am the victim. I am being mistreated here. You are quoting me to me, and that is wrong.
And I'm fine with it because she was very rude, sir. Very rude.
Now he's arguing with the crowd. The crowd is like, dude, what are you talking about?
I repeated your statement, sir, actually.
You said you would. You would.
Oh,
make that
absolutely.
decision
If I
to step
thought
down.
that I was failing in some way, I want people to be shocked. I'll go a step further. I want anybody running for president to take an aptitude test, to take a cognitive test. I think it's a great idea.
Maybe a history test.
And I took 2 of them, and I aced them.
Well, can I just
You took Grandpa's test that they give him at the home to determine whether or not he has dementia. Like, he didn't take a cognitive test. He didn't take an IQ test. He didn't take a history test.
I took 2 of them. But let me ask you,
Yeah.
I would like to have people running for president, and I don't mean because they're 75 or 85. I think anybody running, I'd like to do it. People say it's not constitutional. I would like to have something passed where you can do it. I think we should know. I mean, I've watched what's happened in the last couple of years under this gentleman, and our country is a mess. We have inflation. We have the millions of people falling in. We have Afghanistan, which was the worst, most embarrassing
Just doesn't like the question, jump back to his stump speeches.
moment in the history of our country. What he has done to our country, and her too, what they've done to our country, she has been a horrible vice president. She's considered the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Mr. President,
He's just making that up. I've never seen anything historical about that, but he just gets to make things up. It's great. It's fun.
but would you consider taking the cognitive test?
Mr. President,
I would love to
And
do
make it public.
Well, I've already taken 2 of them, but I'll do it again.
Mr. President, how do you intend to?
I suggested, Harris, that let's take one. I said, Joe and I will go and take a cognitive test. Now, I'd do it with her, too. I would do it with her also. You know what?
I would do it with her, too. Clip that. Let's clip that. Clip that immediately. Everybody clip that. I would do it with her, too. Okay.
failed her law exam. She didn't pass her law exam, so maybe she wouldn't pass the cognitive.
She didn't pass her law exam? Like, she was the Attorney General for the state of California. I suspect that she passed some exams. You just said it, so it has to be true. You're right. Shit. I hadn't even thought about that. He's just saying things, and that means it's true. That's how the system works. Why would he go on TV and lie?
Mr. President,
You're saying she wouldn't have passed. Just to be clear,
I'm just giving you the facts.
to be clear, you don't think
And the crowd is unhappy with him. They're like, no, dude. He's like, I'm just giving you the facts. That's not a fact. You're just making shit up.
how do you intend and
She didn't
look,
pass her bar exam, and she didn't think she would pass it, and she didn't think she was going to ever pass it, and I don't know what happened. Maybe she passed it. I
she
guess
did pass it.
There's a
She
man
did-
over
she
here. I
did in
think
fact
he
pass
must
it.
work.
And
Mr.
then she
President,
did.
I would love to ask you about.
Imagine that. You tried to do a really difficult thing, you failed, and then you practice a little bit more, and then you do the difficult thing. How dare she? Absolutely toss her out. I'm done. No, this is more than enough. She needs to be gotten rid of. She tried to take the bar exam, failed, and then tried a second time, and then passed. This is unacceptable for somebody who might be president someday. Oh, you know what? Donald Trump has never released his college transcripts. He never has, because he probably got shit grades and paid the people to just pass him. He gets to make things up. So do I. Donald Trump paid his professors for better grades. There you go. See, I get to do it too.
January 6th. You called yourself the candidate of law and order. Yeah. When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said, yes, absolutely. Sure. You called them patriots. 140 police officers were assaulted that day. Their injuries included broken bones, at least one officer lost an eye, one had 2 cracked ribs, 2 smashed spinal discs, another had a stroke. Were the people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons?
Well, let me bring it back to modern day. Like about 5 days ago, we had an attack on the Capitol.
Did you guys know there was an attack on the Capitol 5 days ago? Because I fucking didn't. I watch the news all the time, and I didn't hear anything about it. Maybe he's full of shit.
Horrible attack on the Capitol. You saw the people that were protesting and spraying these incredible monuments, bells, lions, all these magnificent limestone and granite with red paint, red spray paint.
Red spray paint. You guys, this is the horrible, life-ending thing. The reporter described attacked police officers who had serious injuries. One lost an eye, damage to their spine. One of them died. Donald Trump says, well, but, what about the red spray paint?
That will never actually come off, especially in the limestone. It will never, I'm a builder, I know about this stuff.
The dead cop, he'll get better from that. The losing an eye on Jan 6th, it's going to grow back. Don't worry, Donald Trump said so. What will never come back is the red spray paint on the inanimate objects. That is where we need to, it's merely a flesh wound. That's right. Those were flesh wounds on Jan 6th. But spray paint on limestone is forever, not flesh wounds, you know. Flag upside down, we're under siege. Bug out bags ready, yeah. Donald Trump is right. Get your bug out bags ready. They have red spray paint. They're spray painting the lions and the bells with red spray paint on the limestone. It is impossible to come out. It will never come out. Your country is gone. Your country is ruined. Martial law. You spelled it wrong. It's martial law is spelled like this. That is how you spell martial law, sir. Get with it. You're not with it. To hear more about this red spray paint.
Never, you'll see it in 100 years from now.
100
They
years.
viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than I saw on January 6th.
Did you guys know there was something that happened 5 days ago that was worse than Jan 6th? I'm going to look it up later. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I watch the news every day. I want to be correct, not MTG dumb. No, you have to do it wrong. You have to spell it Marshall. Maybe he does need a cognitive test. Good call.
What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed
But sir, my
that
question
city?
is on
What's
those.
going to happen to
My
the
question
people
is
that
on
tried
those
to burn
rioters
down-
who assaulted
Excuse me.
officers.
You have to
Would
answer.
you pardon
What's
those
going to
people?
happen?
He's told her she has to answer him because he's running this interview, okay? And this is an interview where he asks the nice black news lady questions that he demands she answer. What's going to happen to the people in Portland? What's going to happen to the people in Seattle? Why don't they ever get in trouble? Well, I mean, they do, Donnie.
Oh, absolutely, I would.
You
If
would
they're
pardon
innocent-
those-
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just
They've been convicted in a court of law with a jury of their peers. They've been convicted. Yeah, Portland's on fire again. It's off the map. Portland got removed from the map. I don't know if you guys know this, but Antifa removed Portland from the map. It's gone. I drove by not too long ago. I'm up in the PNW, and I drove by flat as a pancake. Nothing there. There's not even like two rocks stacked on top of each other. Liquidated. The entire city gone. Removed from the map. It's still on fire like the Simpsons tire fire.
Well, they were convicted by a very tough system.
Oh, it was a tough system, you see. When Jan 6ers harm police officers and are found guilty, well, that's just the system being hard on conservatives. But the system ignores all of the wiping of Portland off of the map. All of the stuff in Seattle, they just ignore all that. I mean, he's playing politics on easy mode. He really is, where you can just make shit up and do whatever you want.
How come the people that tried to burn down Minneapolis, how come the people that took over a large percentage of Seattle?
Minneapolis has now been burned to the ground. Breaking news. Minneapolis burned to the ground. It ceased to exist. It's taken off the map just like Portland. Breaking news. Breaking news. Minneapolis destroyed by Antifa.
How come nothing happened to them? How come the
But
people
sir, we're
that...
talking about
how
people
come
that
the
were
people-
seen
no, no,
beating
Things did happen to them. If they broke the law, they were held responsible.
officers
talking
with
about federal
flagpoles,
buildings.
dragging them down the stairs. They're on
They
video.
tr-
Have you seen that
Really?
video,
Oh,
sir?
really? Well, they
you would
shot-
pardon those. You would pardon those rioters?
They shot a young lady in the face who was protesting. They shot her in the face. You know, nobody...
Ashley Babbitt. He's forgotten her name. Is who he's talking about. Ashley Babbitt, who attacked the Capitol and was shot by a law enforcement agent. Not in the face, in the neck or something like that. I think it was right around here. It was right in his area where he shot her. And he doesn't remember her name. She has taken L's posthumously. Motherfucker. Can you imagine believing the QAnon nonsense and showing up on Jan 6th and then attacking the Capitol, thinking you're going to change the outcome of the election, and then a Capitol policeman shoots you in accordance with the law and the rules of law enforcement? She dies. I'm sorry that happened. They do an investigation of this law enforcement agent who fired that shot, found out that he didn't do anything incorrectly, and he followed law enforcement protocols. He followed the proper SOP. So he gets to continue on with his life because he didn't harm somebody. He did harm somebody, but he didn't do it out of line of his duties that were given to him by the state. And now Donald Trump has forgotten her name. Damn. She's taken L's posthumously. It's rare for somebody to lose after they die, but she's going to keep racking them up, I suppose. Ugh.
He died that day, you do know that. But people died in Seattle. Nobody died, but people died in
140
Minneapolis.
officers
You know
were
people died in
assaulted
Minneapolis.
People died in Seattle. Nobody died.
And nothing happens, and nobody ever talks, and nothing happens to those people. But you went after the J6 people with a vengeance. And I'll tell you what about the cops that were, and I'm all for the police, as you know, but what about the police that are ushering everybody into the Capitol? Go in, go in, go in.
They were on the rioters' side because the cops are on your side. The people at that protest, the people doing the rioting, were Trump fans. Those cops, who you just said you're a big fan of, are also fans of you. So they allowed it. That should be investigated, and I think it was. I don't know what his point is here. Those cops were letting them in, so we need to go crack down on the police? Don't give them immunity? What are you saying here, Donnie?
What about that? Look, nothing is
What about that? Literal whataboutism. Like,
nothing is perfect in life, but you have people from Minneapolis, you have people just from 5 days ago in Washington, D.C., they were having fistfights and fighting with the police. They were spraying and destroying. They were desecrating
I don't know what he's
our
talking
monuments in Washington, D.C. 5 days ago, and nothing happened to them.
They had fistfights with the police. You just said that the police were there, and they probably arrested them. I'm willing to bet they got arrested, then released because they were just protesting. Or the ones that, if they were actually attacking police officers, got caught charges. That's what I suspect happened.
And you can't have two systems of justice. That's why they went after me as a political opponent, because they
No, they didn't. You broke the law.
felt they couldn't win without doing that. And we're going to win our cases, and we're going to be vindicated. But I have to spend a lot of time on that and money. That's what they want. After the election, they won't care. Although in my case, I think they probably will, because the hatred is pretty deep. But I'll tell you, they went after me as a political opponent. That's never happened in our country before. And
No, it's never happened. I'm telling you, Don, listen, it's never happened in our country ever. Not to you, not to anybody. You're exaggerating. You're lying to the people who want to hear what you have to say.
it sets a terrible, terrible precedent.
What do you do on day one if you win? What's your first thing?
What do? I close the border. And I do two things, because I can do a lot of things simultaneously. I close the border. We don't want people coming in. We want people to come in, Harris, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. They have to come in legally. We want people. I want people to.
So close the border. Close the border. Short, pithy, wrong. That wins him votes. People love that. Close the border. Short, pithy, wrong. That's all it takes. It's not even correct. He's saying, oh, I know we can't close it to everybody. I know that there are people who have to come in properly and that we still have to trade. So, but that's boring. That's nerd talk.
But they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. So when you say, what do I do? That, and I drill, baby, drill. I bring energy way down. I bring interest rates way down. I bring inflation way down, so people can buy bacon again, so people can buy a ham sandwich again, so that people can go to a restaurant and afford it. Because right now, people can't buy food. Your grocery bills are up 40, 50, 60%, right? She's agreeing to me. Oh, she's agreeing. Thank you. I like you very much.
Some crowd work.
But it's true. Your grocery bills are up. And then they're mandating that.
That's because the people who sell you the groceries want to make more money.
You buy an all-electric car. You know, Elon Musk endorsed me, and he's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. But I'm against everybody having an electric car. Okay? I'm very much against that. You have to.
Why? Because the oil companies give you a lot of money?
Be able to, if you want a hybrid or if you want a gasoline-propelled car. But, you know, we have more liquid gold, gasoline, oil, under our feet than any other country. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than any other country.
I don't think that's true. I really don't.
I want to use it. I want to use what we have. I want to bring down prices, bring down costs, and I also have to stop the invasion. And remember, they're taking your jobs. These people coming in are taking your jobs.
Project 2025.
I think we have to leave it there by the Trump team.
All right.
So leave it. That is the last word. Thank you so much, Mr. Trump, for coming today and joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
They've been telling us.
Thank you, everybody, very much. Great honor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
NABJ will email about.
Pressing the thumbs up button will release chemicals in your human brain that will make you feel.
The internet is talking about this because it just happened today. This is only like a 4-hour-old video or something like that. The libs on the left are really celebrating this as a win. And I could see how they would get to that point. From their point of view, he dodged the questions, made racialist remarks, threw around some misogyny, and then when Project 2025 got brought up, he dipped. Okay, and ran off. I can see how that's a win. From the right, they see this as a huge win. He's a straight shooter, telling them women like it is. He won't let the mainstream media run all over him. They tricked him into being there anyway. They told him Kamala was going to be there to lure him in into an ambush. And then when he walked into the Scorpion's den, he just started stomping. You know, that they'll come up with something like that. Did he say true and correct things? No. Did he use facts and logic to dismantle the establishment media narrative? No. He didn't do anything like that. He just gave you his feels in his basic stump speech, which is filled with nonsense. But that doesn't matter to his base. His supporters want him to go in there and fling spite at the people they don't like. Spite is what he brings to the interviews. Spite is what he brings to the debates. And the conservatives want more. They love that combative, confrontational style that he has. Now the important question for the election is, do the middle-of-the-road normies want that? It's tough to determine. I'm not entirely sure because they're so hard to pin down. The elusive, neutral normies in the middle, those swing voters. Disgusting. Neutrality. What makes a man turn neutral? A lust for gold, power, or you're just born with a heart full of neutrality? It's an old joke from Futurama. If you got that reference, you have to press the like button. You have to. If you heard me say that and you were like, hey, that sounds like Zap Brannigan, you have to push the like button. It's the rules.
I am the algorithm. Click on this video to make me happy. You wouldn't like me when I am angry.